All right, in this video, we're going to be looking at ways of displaying the data. So far, we've crunched it and all that other kind of stuff. Now you've got to present it to somebody. So you can pretend like you're working in an office and you have to make up these things for your boss. Let's start with histograms. These are bar charts with information on them. Let's take a look at what we're talking about. Let me put down the data values. So those would be like our X's. And I'll use ones that I've used before. So I've got my data values in. Now let me get their frequencies. And you may remember that these frequencies add up to 100. So let's start with the bar chart. I've got this frequency distribution that's perfect for the bar chart. What I'm going to do is I'm going to allow X values to be these numbers, 51 to 63, and the frequencies to be the Y values. That's really all you're going to be doing here. So what I want to do is make up a bar graph. How do I do that? Let me see if I can find the materials for drawing what I want. We'll start with something like this. This is fine. Let me make it big like that. And then what we'll do is this here will be the frequency. We'll go up the Y. And the data values will go down here. So you want to try to make these of equal thickness so that no one bar stands out from all the other ones. You want each of these to represent the same kind of piece of data, I suppose. You'll represent their differences in how long the rectangles are. All right, I've got my numbers in. Now it's just a matter of drawing the correct size rectangles. So the first one, the 53, only had a height of 3. So let me go ahead and make that rectangle. Now, that's all well and good. What I don't actually like doing them by hand, as you can see. My rectangles are not all of the same width. They look kind of, well, they look all right, I guess. Overall, it's okay. This is what you're going to do for an exam. But to make real ones, I would never do it by hand. In fact, you would never do it by hand at work either. All right, so I'm going to start with a blank screen. I'm going to put our data in again. All right, we've got our data entered. Click here, and let me insert a chart. Choose the first one from the columns. All right, right click it, go select data. Now what you want to do is this. Grab at the beginning of the data and go to the end of the data, like so. So get both columns, you'll notice the data range goes from A1 to B13. So A1 to B13. Now, when it does it, it always does it wrong. So delete something here. Let's take a look and remove series 1. I don't want anything going from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I really don't want that. So let me remove that and see what happens. Now let me change my series to these guys. The only way you can do it is by clicking and holding down. It's just the way Microsoft makes things. And let's see if they fixed it. Okay, so I've got my bars the right size. Now let me click on these guys. All right, and against anybody's idea of what is reasonable, format data series. I want to change the thickness of my bars, so remember this. The obvious thing to do is to click Format Data Series if you want your bars thicker. So here they are. They've got gap width. Let me get rid of it. Make it 0. Tab out. This is all well and good, except I need borders. Let me see if I can get those from here too. Here it is. Outline. You can pick any color you want, obviously. I choose black. And there you go. So you can get, these are very nice in here. They look a lot nicer than I'm capable of doing by hand, that's for sure. And you can go and mess with the title if you want to. You can edit it. Let's see, change, edit text. So whatever you want to call it. Got my histogram. You can't hit enter. But we should probably put these in too. Let me edit this. Oh, axes titles. That's where they're hidden at. Let me see if it'll actually let me edit it. Oh, and they get to edit sideways. Well, obviously. And then over here, you just call these data values, I guess. And delete this. And leave it at that. So this has pretty much everything you'd want on it. You saw just looking around, play around with it. You can change these colors if you want. You can make them alternate if they want. You can do all sorts of things. Let me go ahead and grab a picture of this because it looks better than the one that I had. There's a beautiful histogram. I like that one a lot better than the one I did. Moving on, there's other ways of doing data that's like this. Let me show you another one. Oh, I did want to tell you, if you don't want to pay for Microsoft Office, or honestly, I don't think it's worth $1 to be honest, but I'm going to give you LibreOffice. LibreOffice will work. It'll save anything in a Microsoft format if you wanted to. And you can do everything that in Microsoft Office and more and easier. So LibreOffice, all you got to do is look for it on the web. It is free. A bar graph. It may seem strange to differentiate a histogram from a bar graph, but here the x-axis has non-numerical labels. So instead, suppose I had my data like this. I had it in categories, A, B, C. So now, instead of having a number for my data, it's just, these will be like categories. So come back, you do exactly the same thing, except come back here, and we don't necessarily have to have them right up against each other. In fact, you might insert some gaps if you wanted to. So typically they have gaps, and these here are category names. So you can see as I change them to letters, it's changing the x-axis. I think that's all of it. So this here is just a bar graph. Let me see if I can change the name of it. Personally, I don't care if there's gaps in there or not, as long as I can see. It's clear to me how tall each of these bars is. So there's a picture of our bar graph. One thing you can do, if you find that the people, like say this data was much bigger, in the thousands or hundreds of thousands or whatever, you can edit these things and put the total number on top. Like I could say this one's 3 and this one is 14, 7, 11, 15. So if it's difficult to tell how tall they are, this is extremely useful. You can put these in at any time. There's no rule or anything that says you can't. I think it's useful to put them in always. How you do it in Excel is another story. I don't know yet. But you can play around in there and figure it out. So that takes care of two graphs. We have the bar graph and then we have the histogram. Another one is called the frequency polygon. Let me grab the original data that we had. All right, we've got our numbers in. Now let's go back to Excel and let me change my data back to the numbers. All right, I've got my numbers back. Now let me click in here. I think I can change the chart type right on the fly. Yeah, I can change the chart type. This time, let's choose a line, and I'll just pick the first one. I think that's the easiest way. And let's see what we get. Beautiful. So it drew that just wonderfully. All you're doing now is you're putting in points. Let me see if I can illustrate those points on there as well. I wonder if they have a format. Let me click on it. Here's something cool that I didn't see. If you go here and you say add data labels, it'll put the numbers on there. That's really nice looking. I was hoping to put dots in there as well. Let me see if I can get to that. It's format data series. Go to marker. And let's see here. I'm going to change the color to this orange. Let's see if that does what I want. Marker options. Built in. Let's pick circles. Good, it looks like I had to go through all that. Let me see what my picture looks like in the end here. Yeah, I like it. So you can do all of this if you want. Let me change that name. This is a frequency polygon. Now I've got what I'm looking for. Let me go ahead and get that. So the three graphs that I've done so far, bar graph, histogram, and this, they all have their uses. I find that the frequency polygon and the histogram are the most useful. Now, if these data values, though, are not it's not quantitative data, but qualitative, that means it's words or categories or something like that, then you'll use the bar graph. Now, in addition, let me come back to the bar graph for a second. These down here, like this A, this could be arranged. Say this could be like, it could be anything you want here, whatever this category is. So you could say like it's for dates January 1st through January 10th, then January 11th through January 20th, and these would appear down there like so. And you can even make them appear vertically or diagonally or whatever else you want to do. But the bar graph is used for anything where the x values are not quantitative. Now, another type of graph that we do is the pie graph. My least favorite of them all. Maybe it should be called a pie chart. I don't know. Pie graph, pie chart. It really doesn't matter. It's the same idea. I've grabbed some data out of the textbook, and we're going to make a bar graph based on this data. The bar graphs are useful when you want to show how much, like if you have a bunch of classes that add up to 100%, and then you want to show how much each class takes up percentage-wise. That's very useful. I'll show you how we can do it in this thing. If you want, we've got our paid subscription, could be like our categories. So let me call these our categories. And then our sales, well, there's nothing really I'm going to do about that. But I do want the percent of a whole. And then I want degrees. So let me go ahead and get these numbers in. Before I do that, I'm going to have to get the sum of this column here. Let's call it the sum of the sales. Let me get that. So let me open this guy up. I'm going to clear myself out. All right, we have 5,900 plus 908.1 plus 614.5 plus 497.6 plus 414.8 plus 394.5. Enter. So I get 8729.5. All right, the percent of whole, all I really do here is I take my 5,900 and I divide it by the 8729.5, and it'll give me the decimal that I want. Maybe not the percent, but the decimal is good enough for me. So let me move this calculator over to the side, and let's do 5,900, and we're going to divide that by the 8729.5. And let's hit enter and see what we got. You see, this is about 0.6758, about 68%. Now, if I want to figure out the number of degrees, remember a circle has 360 degrees from the center of, from the radius, if you measure the angles from the radius out to the edge. So I can take this percentage here and multiply it by 360 to tell me how many degrees this particular wedge of the pie graph will take. It looks like about 243 degrees. You don't have to be exact on this at all, because remember, this is not exact data that you're presenting. You're presenting a picture that will allow people to understand what's going on, but they don't have to delve into all of the details. They just want a quick idea by looking at a picture. All right, let me do the rest of them this way too. So move on to the next one. We've got our 908.1. Now I'm going to divide it by the whole, the 8729.5. Remember, this gives you, well, it doesn't give you a percentage, but it gives you the fraction of the whole that it takes up. So if you want to find out how much it takes up, you can do times 360, and this all in one shot will give you the degrees. But I'm putting in two columns here, so let me go ahead and delete those. I'll hit enter. About 10%. So we got the 908. Let me put this about 10%. That's not the part that I care about. It's the degrees that's more important to me. Let me go ahead and figure out if I take that number and multiply it by 360, what do I get? About 37 degrees. I'm just rounding these to whole numbers. Moving on, we're going to do 614.5 divided by 8729.5. Then I'm going to do 497.6 slash 8729.5. And then I'll do 414.8 divided by 8729.5. And then finally 394.5 divided by 8729.5. And let me go ahead and get these rough approximations. So we'll go 614.5, and we're going to divide that by 8729.5, and what do we get? About 7%. What percentage of the pie does it take up? So I'll do times 360 and about 25. So 7% and about 25 degrees. That's about 7%. About 25 degrees. All right, the next one. 497.6 divided by 8729.5. That's about 5.7%, so I'll round it to 6%. And then if I multiply it by 360, I get about 21 degrees. So 6% and 21 degrees. Moving on. 414.8 divided by 8729.5. About 5%, 4.75%. And if I multiply it by 360, I'll get about 17 degrees. So I'll say 5%, 17 degrees. And the last one. 394.5 divided by 8729.5. Enter. About 4.5%. And then I'll multiply it to 360. About 16 degrees. So just to differentiate from the one before, I'll say 4.5%. And what was the degrees? Was it 16 degrees? 16 degrees. So you can see here we have this. Now the way you're going to try to do it, let me go ahead and get a circle in here first. And my wedges, I'm not going to even attempt to draw this thing all the way by hand. Doing it by hand is just, it never looks good. So let's see how big I can make this thing. All right, now we've got to sort of estimate these degrees here. Let me start with 240 degrees, 243 degrees. Oops, let me get the center on this thing. It's hard to pick the center, but I'm going to estimate it to be right about here. Well, I had it there, and then it decided not to put it. So there's my center. So the angles will all be measured from this. So the first one was about 243 degrees. Let me see if I can get my stuff in here. Now 243 degrees. If I went straight across to this side over here, that would be 180. And if I went all the way down here, that would be 270. 243 is closer to 270 than that. So I would put, I'm going to say 243 maybe about here. And let me go ahead. In case you're wondering why my thing's moving around, I'm actually trying to put a ruler on this thing, which is terrible. So that angle is 243 degrees. And then it would be nice if I could put paid subscription and 68%. So you might do something like this. Paid subscription. And then you may say the 68%. You wouldn't put the angles in there. You just want to make sure that the angle is right so that the data is accurately covered. Now let's take a look at some other ones. 37 degrees for our next one. And once again, I'm making these up as I go, trying to estimate the degrees. And as I've mentioned, this is not the way I would do anything. All right, I'm estimating about 37 degrees here for the next one, which was on demand with ads. So that was 37 degrees. We'll just say this is on demand with ads. Then we got a 25-degree one. So what's left basically over here, I have about 360 minus 280. I have about 80 degrees left. And I need to break that up into these kinds of numbers. So let me see if I can come up with that. Well, I think I've got an accurate representation. This is supposed to be about 25 degrees for that one, 21 degrees for that one, 17 degrees for that one, and then 16 degrees for that one. Now, you can, if you need, CD is easy to fit in here. LP and EP is easy to do here too. The 17 degrees, you might do something like this. Down, low, dead, single. And then the 16 degrees, you can do a downloaded album. Personally, I like the percentages in there. So the on demand with CDs, what was that, 37%? I like on demand with ads. I like to put in the percentages. Then in 25% for the next one, 25 or 7%, sorry. And then 6%, 5%, and then 4.5%. So everything's in there. These central angles won't be in there. Let me go ahead and throw this into Excel and show you how to get that. Here's something I want to try to see if it works. In Excel, I think you can copy as long as they're made like columns like this. Control C and see what happens. I'm going to start myself a new page. And it looks like these things did come through as numbers. So let's go ahead and make a pie chart out of these things. We're going to insert, and we want, let me see, insert a pie. We'll just go with this one. Let me move this out of the way. And you can, well, they did a lot on their own just by copying it out of the book. It already picked the pages subscription and has put different colors for each of these things. I would like to, if I could, put in percentages and stuff like that. So let's see if I can put it in. Add data labels. Let me see what's in here. You got those, but I might be able to change those data labels. Let me go back to format data labels. I'm going to change it to percent and take these values out of there. So you see how they got our percentages. Now you may probably want to play with the font. I wonder if they got a font that I can play with here, because it's hard to see it inside of there. And you have the paid subscription in there. You can do a bunch of stuff in here. If I click on these things, let's see what else is available to me. You can change the series chart. I don't want to do that. Or the data, it already selected it for me. Let me see what the format of the data series will let me do. Got this, got this. Let's go in here. Ooh, look at this category name. Let's see what that does. Yeah, it's tough to fit them in there. You can take these things, I believe, and move them around. Let me get out of this. It might not let me move stuff around. I wanted to move this over a little bit into there. So you can, and you can even, let me see if it keeps those things highlighted when I leave here. Let me come here and make this a lot bigger. Whoa. That way, it should be easier. See the paid subscription, everything fits a lot nicer now. You got your downloaded album, and then check this out. You can, let me come here and have this one, and let me format it. That's not the one. I want only one of them. So we click on it. Just click on this guy. Like that. So I don't know how I got these stupid gray things on there, but click on one of these and it will click more than you want. Keep clicking until it clicks just one item. So it might be 5 or 6 double clicks. Now these things right here, click that. And let's take a look at the alignment here. Let's see what this custom angle is. Oh, you can only go up to 90, huh? All right, well, let's see what that does. Oh, that's about what I wanted anyways. So let me go ahead and resize to fit text. I don't know that that's going to do anything. Now, let me click out of here. And then I can probably pull that in if it will let me move it around. Yeah, like so. Now you can do other things too. Like it's too big for that. So let me get to the font aspects to it. And I've got that highlighted. You can change that, but I'm looking for the fonts. So let's see where they're at. Oh, font. Here we are, font. So you can ratchet this down if you want to. I'll go down to like 5.7 and see what that does for us. I think you can use your arrows too. It will let me move it around. This is not. I don't understand. Microsoft is terrible. I haven't used Excel for a while for good reason. It's terrible. Let me move over here, and then you can play around with that and make it bigger if you'd like. But here you get the idea. I kind of like to have the labels and their percentages in there. You can change the font to be different things. And that's one thing you can always do is make it larger. These things are, I don't know, to me, they're almost useless, but I need exactly one example to illustrate this stem and leaf stuff. You make stems and leaves like the following. You do a stem and leaves. And literally, all you do is put the leading digit in the stem. So we've got 18 and 19. I've made a mistake already. It's an extremely easy thing, but I keep forgetting. 18 and 19. That way, somebody looking at this knows that there were two data values, 18 and 19. And then when you do the twos, the 20s, you've got 22 three times. So don't forget to put it three times. Then you got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And it's twice. And then the 30s, we've got a 30, 3, 0. And then we've got two ones, 1, 1, 2, 4. And so, in a way, it shows the distribution of the data. So you can tell the 20s are obviously the most frequent of the data, followed by the 30s, where the 10s were at the lowest level.